There's a huge bombshell coming about a rape and murder. Did I walk you through that on your show?
Pakistan is a place I really worry about. 85 countries, a woman can't open up a bank account without her husband's signature. She can't inherit property. If you're a young girl in Pakistan, life is pretty tough, so we're trying to make life better for women throughout the world.
It's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan.
Why they did not, I know what's in the Durham report, and I'm going to say it here. I bribed Hillary Clinton $18 million. I facilitated a bribe for Hillary Clinton on January 14, 2016, right here in this town. Hillary Clinton, on behalf of the FBI, on behalf of the FBI, on behalf of the FBI.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Are you ready to feel the burn? Hope so, because we got a lot of burn to feel. And it looks like President Trump is in double veto mode. And in this episode, we want to wish R.I.P. to Senator Lindsey. Let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be
All right, the usual housekeeping. Please like, please share, please subscribe on YouTube, hit the notifications bell, and please leave a comment. And I have to say once again, thank you to this audience. We have just about pushed past what the bots did to us about a month ago on Facebook. So thank you very, very much to everybody that especially has left a comment. That seems to have outsmarted them. On Parler, you can find us at Ohio for Freedom. And it's Ohio for Freedom with no spaces, no caps. You can find us there. And then I'm going to make two announcements. One is starting the first of the year, we're going to send out an email every time that we post. So I would strongly encourage you, if you can find your way to ohioforfreedom.com and simply subscribe, I'll make you this promise. We'll send you a notification when we have something to post. You'll never get spammed. You'll never get a bunch of offers, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Also, we've never done any fundraising on this channel. There are some expenditures we're going to make for this little studio. So if you want to drop us $5, $10, $1, whatever, on the PayPal on the website, you can do that. So let's get started. Okay, we are going to talk about three things in this episode. I'm going to spend the most time talking about this chock-full explosive article. It's been out for a long time, but nobody knows about it, by Patrick Byrne, who we've discussed some on previous episodes, former CEO of Overstock.com. But there is so much information that is pertinent to what we are going through right now. And that's going to take up the bulk of the time in this episode. But I just want to say a couple of things about President Trump and his vetoes. First of all, I played a little bit in the opening here. Thankfully, he is going to veto this ridiculous non-COVID stimulus package that is such an insult to the American people. We don't need to send $1.5 billion to Egypt so they can buy Russian artillery and Russian military equipment. We do not need to spend any money in Pakistan for gender issues. I'm sorry they have gender issues in Pakistan, but folks, here in the United States, we got bigger fish to fry. And it just hit later in the day today, which would be Wednesday, the 23rd, that the president is going to veto the defense bill. Thank the Lord. And one of the most important parts of that bill from this chair right here is that he is insisting that we do away with the, is it Section 230 or whatever you call that, Provision 230, that lets Facebook and Twitter and Google censor and be the big tech tyrants that they have been. All of the establishment Republicans don't seem to care about that, which leads us to Lindsey Graham. I'm not going to dignify that gentleman with playing the clip from Sean Hannity that I saw just a few days ago, where he is saying, Mr. President, join my bill, and in 2023, we'll start to rein in Google and Twitter and Facebook. What planet is this dude living on? You want to give them 3 more years, Lindsay? Just long enough so they absolutely can. First of all, President Trump's going to be re-inaugurated, but if he wasn't, people like me and people like you, we would just disappear from social media because they would be completely unchecked. But you want to wait until 2023? You want to guarantee that they can have the same kind of impact on our midterm elections as they just did on this last election? I don't think so. So you take that insult and you add the insult of that ridiculous statement about caring about Pakistan. Good grief. And there's one other Lindsey Graham issue that we're going to get to, but I'm going to save that because I want to get into this information about Patrick Byrne. I had no idea all this info was there. It's been out there for a while, but nobody's talking about it, and I want to go through it. And so the way I'm going to do that is first I'm just going to explain that Patrick Byrne is the former CEO of Overstock.com. And because of his relationship working with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and having to interact with the folks and the powers that be at Wall Street, he worked with the FBI in the early 2000s to bring some real characters to justice. So he had a history of working with the FBI. So let's leave that right there. Let's just establish that he has a history of working as a private citizen cooperating with the FBI. He has an article that's about a 50-minute read if you take the time and absorb it, that is posted on a website called Deep Capture, which is essentially his blog. Patrick Byrne is eccentric. He's a unique character, but as I read this guy, I really like him. But he's thinking on several different planes at the same time. But I want to pick up, and here's what I'm going to do. This is going to be a little bit wordy. You're going to have to, if you're going to follow me, you're going to have to listen. But there's a lot to process here. So I'm going to go through 7 or 8 different sections from this article, but it's going to connect some dots. It's actually fascinating. So let me start with reading just about a paragraph that picks up in the year 2015. Let's go. They made a speech. They told me if one understands the constitutional structure, one understands that the Senate Judiciary Committee is the bulwark that protects rule of law for the USA. That is because the Senate Judiciary Committee has jurisdiction regarding corruption in the USA. Anything touched by a civil or criminal penalty. For example, in the executive branch, the Department of Agriculture has oversight provided by the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry. But if the Senate Judiciary Committee gets word of something corrupt going on in the Department of Agriculture, they're going to look into it. And the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry does not get to say, stay out, this is our jurisdiction. The Senate Judiciary's authority to look into corruption trumps the authority of anyone else in government. Okay, pardon me, so I misspoke. We're going to get to 2015. We're not there yet. What was just read was from 2006 when he was meeting with then head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Arlen Specter, the late Arlen Specter. Arlen Specter was a senator from Pennsylvania. He was a Demopublican. He was a Republican that should have been a Democrat that was a Democrat that should have been. He was very, very, very frustrating, but he was head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And we're going to see in just a moment that the Senate Judiciary Committee gave some extraordinary immunity to Patrick Byrne. We're going to get to that in just a moment, but the most important part of what we just read is this head of the Senate Judiciary Committee and other senators explaining the power and the authority that the Judiciary Committee has. And he was saying that another branch of government or another committee may have some issues, but if they need looked at, they can't say, leave us alone, we'll take care of it. What he was explaining was the Senate Judiciary Committee can look at just about anything that has any civil or criminal ramifications. And so let me just finish up with Lindsey Graham was saying by saying this. Who's the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee right now? It's Lame-O Lindsey. And I'm reading this. I'm going through this the other day, and I'm thinking, how many subpoenas has Lindsey Graham not submitted? How many people has he not questioned? How much has he not done? How much stonewalling has he done? It's time to say R.I.P. Lindsey, but we're going to get to this immunity right now, and this is a real eye-opener. Then he held out a letter that he said would sit the rest of my life in a safe at the DOJ. When I reached for it, a staffer blurted out, "He cannot touch it." So another senator held it while I stood bent over with my hands clasped behind my back and scanned it. It was about 1.5 pages. After only 10 to 20 seconds, the senators, being senators, were not able to contain themselves and started telling me what I was reading, so static exists in my memory. But as I recall it, the first paragraph had language about their growing concern that some kind of deep systemic corruption was infiltrating and corrupting the federal institutions of the United States government. The second paragraph started with a sentence along the following lines. The United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary requests that Patrick M. Byrne be afforded extraordinary latitude under the laws of the United States of America to pursue his activities investigating and disrupting corruption within the federal government. Okay, full disclosure, let me get this out of the way. I personally believe Patrick Byrne. I believe what he's saying. Can I prove it? No. I believe what he is saying is true. And I'm going to refer to it in that manner going forward. So I just wanted to say that. By the way, I have one other thing I forgot to mention. Sometime tomorrow on Christmas Eve, probably about 7 o'clock, I'm going to post about a 15-20 minute Christmas vignette with just me and the acoustic. If you like Christmas music done live, you might want to check it out. But we're going to do that. And so this is really interesting information. The Judiciary Committee wanted to work with Patrick Byrne basically going undercover. I mean, everybody that interacted with him would know who he was and what he did as far as his role as CEO of Overs.com, but they wouldn't know that he was working with the FBI. And so they issued for him a letter that when you read the article, he explains that he was not allowed to touch the letter. He could go in and he could see it. He had to put his hands behind his back and read it. And that letter basically granted him a lot of immunity as he interacted, cooperating with the FBI. You go on to read, and Arlen Specter said, it doesn't mean you can kill anybody, but you can dance around the edges. You can do some things that if you were just acting of your own accord, you could be prosecuted for. And this type of letter, if it exists, is extremely rare. He goes on to say that if you would talk to the average senator or congressman, they would not even believe that such a letter could exist. And evidently, this letter is held somewhere in a safe in the Department of Justice. Now, I think Patrick Byrne is being very trusting, because who's to say that letter couldn't be tossed at any time? But he is, if you believe his account, he is acting as though he has full confidence that this letter exists and grants him immunity. And so it's very important to understand that as we go forward. And now we're going to get to the year 2015. In late 2015, two men in black from my distant Wall Street fighting past and the then ongoing Maria Butina matter told me, we need you to shift to working on something more important. The Bureau is setting Hillary Clinton up in a sting. We need you to facilitate a bribe for her, they explained. using legal jargon. That would be useful for me later. There are two groups in the FBI investigating the Clintons. There is a group looking into Hillary's emails, but we think that is a whitewash. Yet, there is a group of agents in New York City looking into her finances, and they want to put her ass in stir. So it's the year 2015. He hasn't done any work with these guys for a while. That letter of immunity is still sitting there at the DOJ, and they come to him in 2015 and they want Patrick Byrne to work with them to facilitate Hillary Rotten Clinton taking an $18 million bribe. They explained to him that she has already, that they know of and have record of, she has already taken a $20 million bribe from Turkey. And they want him to help facilitate this $18 million bribe. And he mentions that they describe it in this legal jargon that has to do with predication. And that's very, very important. Because evidently, if you want a case to stick, you can't just, like, if you want to bust somebody for drugs, you can't, as an undercover guy, just show up and say, hey, you want to buy some cocaine. You need to have some predication. You need to have some things that have happened previously that would set up what I would call probable cause or reasonable suspicion or something like that. But they had that on her. But you can't just spring into something, and that will become important here in just a little bit. But think about this. They wanted him to work with them to facilitate a future presidential candidate to take an $18 million bribe. Let's keep going. The agents were sober as judges. They did not tell me whether Hillary had made it to the meeting or not. Instead, they said, Patrick, this mission has been scrubbed. We need you to forget every moment of it. We mean it. You must erase every second of this from your memory, accompanied by stern, menacing looks as they gauged my reaction. Here's the explanation they gave me in a nervous, even panicked tone. Hillary Clinton is going to be our next president, and nothing can stop that now. The day she becomes president, the first thing she's going to do is send her people over to the FBI and find out who was part of investigating her, and we're all going to be destroyed. That includes you, Patrick. This mission has to be scrubbed from the highest level. So that's an account of the same men in black after Patrick Byrne has done what he asked them to do. It's taken several weeks to set this up, and he explains how that on a certain trip there was a 10-minute gap in HRC's schedule that, could be hidden from the public, where she could waltz into a room where somebody else was already there waiting for her. They could have the transaction that they desired, where she would take this bribe, and he had been informed that it had gone down successfully. He was not in the room at the time, but he had played his part to set it all up. And so he's wondering how this is going to turn out, how they're going to move forward with prosecution. But they come to him and say, it's going to be scrubbed. And that was their answer. And his biggest question was, why? What's going on, Patrick, is at this point, President Obama has his people across the federal bureaucracy, but especially the Department of Justice. Hillary is going to be president for 8 years, and nothing is going to stop that. But while she's president, the evidence about bribery you were part of gathering is going to be sitting on a Bunsen burner inside the DOJ. And the hand on that Bunsen burner is going to be the hand of one of Barack Obama's people. If Hillary is a good girl, defends Obamacare, etc., that hand will keep the Bunsen burner on low. If she is a bad girl, starts thinking for herself, that hand will turn the Bunsen burner to high. That way, for the 8 years she is president, Hillary is going to be managed by Barack Obama. Then Hillary is going to step down, and Michelle is going to run. And Patrick, that's the plan. How would that sit with you? You're a private citizen. you're patriotic. Now, again, Patrick Byrne's a unique individual. He's, I won't say he's a character, he's eccentric, very, very smart, and he's very patriotic. But if you read the article, he says that he's never voted Democrat. He's never voted Republican. He always votes Libertarian, but he cares about this country. So he plays a role at his own expense. They never paid him for any of this. Yes, he's well-to-do. He can afford. Actually, when you read the article, he seems to suggest that he has spent tens of millions of dollars in cooperating with the FBI. And so he goes to this work, puts his neck on the line, puts himself on the line. It is successful. You're expecting that this crook, this evil, wicked crook, this witch, this crook that took an $18 million bribe, and you know she had previously taken a $20 million bribe from the country of Turkey, you expect her to go down. They should completely eliminate her from being a candidate for the president of the United States of America. They're telling him that, no, we know she's going to win, and we don't want to be taken down once she does win. But then they explain and he had sat on this for a while and went back to them, and that's when they gave him this answer that said Obama's got his people scattered all through the Department of Justice, and so now that we've got this dirt on her, Obama wants to keep this dirt as like a Bunsen burner, and it'll always be burning a little bit. It'll always be in the back of Hillary Clinton's mind. She'll always know that it's there. But if she gets out of line, if she doesn't do what His Royal Highness Obama wants her to do, they'll turn the heat up. They've got something on her. This is a good time to go back and replay a clip that we played in the last episode, just for perspective. Let's do that right now.
Manage Hillary Clinton for the 8 years she's president, and she's going to step down, and Michelle's going to run. And Patrick, that's the plan.
What you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
I'd be fine with that. Folks, you just heard the words of an evil man. Let me please say that again, and this time with feeling. Those are the words of an evil man. That is evil demon speak. I can't help but think of George Washington, our first president, that could have easily been king of America. He could easily have been president for life, but he didn't want it. There's some things that because we have a respect for God and a respect for those things we should be in awe of, they're just too great for us. But they're not too great for Barack Insane Obama. This is a president of the United States that engineered a coup against the person that was the likely Democrat nominee for president, engineered a coup on her, was successful in doing so, not so that she could be taken out, not because he knew about her corruption. He did know about all of her corruption. He knew about the bribes and countless other things. Uranium One just goes, on and on and on. But no, he wanted to own a piece of dirt on Hillary Clinton so that he could be America's first sweatpants president that's hiding out in the basement calling the shots on somebody that he has dirt on. I've gotten into this discussion with one of my brothers, and my brother's got a lot of smart things going on, but I've tried to explain to him, in my opinion, that there isn't one. Well, there ultimately is one sinister force of evil that's orchestrating evil in the world. But when it comes to the humans, there's infighting and there's rivalries and there's jealousies. But Obama once again, wanting to be the first sweatpants president with somebody occupying the office of presidency, but he's pulling the strings. It's demonic. It's satanic. It's Luciferian. It's Marxist. He's a communist. And I wonder, will he ever be brought to justice? I don't know. Let's keep going. In the first week of July 2016, around the time it became clear candidate Trump was going to get the nomination, the three men in black reappeared in my life and told me, "Oh my God, our 3 careers, we have never heard of a request like this, but you are being asked to rekindle a romantic relationship with Maria Butina and discover anything you can learn about her and what Russia is doing here. We 3 want you to know that you have every right to turn down this request, and no one will think lesser of you. You would still be working for the FBI, but because of the 2008 law, which let the CIA director take the wheel of the FBI, this mission is being supervised by Director Brennan himself at the personal request of the president. As this proceeds, we will be going from meetings with you directly back to our offices to report our over video conference to Directors Comey and Brennan." Okay, let me try to unpack this if I can. There had been a pause. So after Patrick Byrne had the interaction where they said, Obama's got his people placed, Hillary's going to be reelected, he didn't like it. And in fact, at that time, he had decided that if he ever got a chance to get even or set up a sting against the administration or the powers that be, that he would, but there had been a pause. But then, in the summer of 2016, these men in black, these FBI agents, reappear, and somewhat to their chagrin, they're asking him to do something that they said they've never asked anyone else to do. In all 3 of their careers, none of them had ever known of anybody being asked to do that. What they wanted him to do was rekindle a romantic relationship with this Maria Butina. And I'm not going to get into too much detail about that, except I'll say, if I could summarize it, previously, Patrick Byrne, you got to follow me on this, had wanted FBI to pay attention to Maria Butina because he believed that she was interested in developing positive connections between America and Russia. Make positive, not negative ones. He did not see her as a spy or as anybody. He saw her as wanting to make positive connections. Let's just leave it at that. So then they mentioned this 2008 ruling. Did you know that in 2008 that a ruling, a law, some kind of order, whatever it was put into place that let the CIA oversee certain FBI operations? Folks, let that sink in, because this is hideously dangerous. We know that the CIA is there for one reason: to spy on people outside of the United States. They're not supposed to operate on U.S. citizens, but somehow in 2008, it was made possible for the CIA to oversee certain FBI operations if it was under special circumstances. And what are special circumstances? Whatever they say that special circumstances are. God, that's really, really disturbing. Now, when this is put into place, yeah, you have to use FBI agents and you have to go through FBI chain of command, but the CIA is still pulling the shots. And what's even further disturbing is, who was president in 2008? It wasn't Barack Hussein Obama. It was George W. Bush. Folks, this just really, really, really stinks. So, 2008, that ruling is put into place, and so they're trying to recruit Patrick Byrne to this new mission of re-romancing this Maria Butina, and the request and the directive comes down from none other than whom? Barack Insane Obama. Let's keep. I pushed things a bit further, replying, Nietzsche said philosophers don't really fall in love. It would be like seeing delicate little hands on a cyclops. Tell them back east that if they send word, I'll cut this chick's head off and bury her in the Utah desert. Nobody will know a thing. The most senior of the Fed sprung from his seat into a gunfighter's crouch and reached for his weapon. He caught himself, then reached for it again, then caught himself, then reached again as his brain processed what he had just heard. Finally, the index finger of his gun hand pointed between my eyes. Hey, he said, hey, searching for words for a moment, during which time I realized the other 2 men in black were also on their feet in gunfighter crouches, hands on weapons, glaring at me in menace. He spit out, hey, let's be perfectly clear about something. Gesturing to the other 2 agents, he said, we don't care what instructions come down from D.C. If you harm a hair on Maria Butina's head, we're going to kill you ourselves. The other 2 agents gave nods of agreement in a way that suggested it had already been discussed and agreed upon. Now, folks, this gets a little tricky. I'm going to try to explain it without getting lost down here in the rabbit hole, because we're down here in the rabbit hole, and I want to talk our way out of it. Okay, remember earlier when I made mention of legal jargon, and we said that that would be important later. Well, here it is. Because according to Patrick Byrne, when they had come to him after he had helped facilitate this sting of getting Hillary Rotten Clinton to accept this bribe, and they didn't do anything with it. Why? Because Obama wanted to have this Bunsen burner under Hillary Clinton, wanted to have this element of control over her. It did not sit well with Patrick Byrne. He felt used. He didn't like what they were doing. It stunk. And so he had made the decision that somehow, some way, he was going to be involved in a sting on Brennan, Clapper, Obama. Now, where the legal jargon comes in is they had talked to him about predication. Well, there have to be certain things that precede a certain action so that it would justify the action. And so when they asked him to renew this romantic relationship with this Maria Butina, he wanted to test them a little bit. So he was being disingenuous with them, and that was intentional, because they asked him in this interchange, can you, if you get re-involved with her, can you keep your distance? So he wanted to shock them by saying, hey, if they tell me to, I'll cut her head off, bury her body in the Utah desert. They'll never know what happened. Now let me back up just a little bit. There's this whole element about being with, in his case, being with this young lady, and the whole issue of whether or not he would be intimate with her or not. Believe it or not, it becomes a big deal. In other words, when you read through this article, he knew that if he were ever to tell them that he had gotten her drunk, intoxicated, drugged up, and been intimate, and if you don't know what I mean by intimate, I ain't going to tell you, okay? But that would actually be a form of statutory rape. If the intent was to get somebody intoxicated and then make advances on them in the purpose of an investigation like this, that could actually be criminal, okay? So he wanted them to believe that he was willing to do that, but not only was he willing to do that, he threw this out there to see how they would react. And he said, hey, I'll cut her head off and bury her body in the Utah desert. That's why they reacted so forcefully with, hands on guns. And then those 3 officers said, now follow this. I know I just read it, but the officers said, we don't care what orders come down from on high. You kill her, we'll kill you. Now that says 2 things. Number one, it says that these FBI agents had some moral character. They're actually decent guys. Patrick Byrne always refers to them as good people, or he didn't want to work with them. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, look what they said. They said, we don't care what orders come down from above. You kill her, we'll kill you. They actually, in their minds and in their world, it would not be, think about this, it would not be inconceivable that a directive would come down from the top. And who was the top? I just said their names. Barack Hussein Obama, Jim Comey, Clapper. We don't care what orders come down from above. If the orders come down from above to kill her, you kill her, we kill you. It was not inconceivable to them that an order like that would ever be given to an American citizen that's helping out the FBI. Dear Lord Jesus, we got one more of these to look at, and then we're going to put a summary on it. I hope you're learning something. This is big stuff. In July 2020, I had an interaction with Uncle Sam where I got to ask a question. My only question was, did the rape murder gambit play? The response, it played better than you expected. The agents picked up on the clues and put them together not in the hour after you left the meeting, but in 60 seconds. They freaked out, went back to the office, and recommended the operation be shut down, said that you had gone crazy. Then after you offered to murder her, they demanded the mission be scrubbed. But it wasn't shut down. It went on for 5 more months, I responded. Uncle Sam replied, they were ordered to continue. Someone else took all responsibility, he said slowly, as he looked up at the ceiling and made signing motions with one hand. That is to say, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, or James Comey, or perhaps John Brennan signed off to turning a blind eye to aggravated rape and a potential homicide in the interest of keeping alive a Russiagate setup on the Republican Party that I know they were working on in September 2015. Okay, so what I just read is proof that Patrick Byrne's sting operation on members of the upper echelon at FBI and CIA worked. Understand, he had never followed through on seducing Maria Butina, but he wanted them to think so. And I misspoke. The term would be aggravated rape, but he led them intentionally to believe that he had committed what would be viewed as aggravated rape, and then he threw out that he'd be willing to, decapitate or bury a body in the sand in Utah. The agents at the time were horrified, said, you do that, we'll kill you. But here, 4 years later, middle of July, he's getting confirmation from he calls him a federale. I don't know who this person is, but somebody high up in government that confirms to him that even though the agents were saying, scrub this mission, this guy's crazy, he's gone off the reservation. I guess you can't say that these days, but I'm saying it. The agents were wanting the mission to be scrubbed. Those higher up said, no, let him continue, and thereby the sting operation worked. Now, I didn't quite understand this at first because I thought, well, but there never was aggravated rape. There never was murder. Doesn't matter. When a undercover agent is selling drugs to a drug dealer, and then there's a bust, the drug dealer doesn't get to walk away with the drugs, sell the drugs, make the money. It's they get caught in the act of being okay with that. I guess I would say, I'm not a lawyer, but what I'm saying is the aggravated rape and the possible homicide didn't have to happen. What did have to happen was those above them signed off on it. And I heard just a few moments ago, this has happened since I began putting this video together. Patrick Byrne confirmed this on Amy Vandersteel's program. So this is really big. Okay, I misspoke one last time. We're going to put the final bow on it with this paragraph, and I hope you've gotten some benefit out of this. In October 2018, a federale offered what sounded a hell of a lot like a bribe. You need to understand that there are billionaires walking around the earth that we made, and we are prepared to do the same for you. You just need to stay calm. You just have to stay quiet through the election. I declined. 6 weeks later, in early December 2018, the unit at the SEC that is managed by Peter Strzok's wife, Melissa Hodgman, opened an investigation into me and my firm, Overstock.com. All right, so this episode sets two records. Number one, it's the longest that I've ever done. I apologize. I didn't know how to do it quicker, and it's got the most misspeaks. The name that I said earlier, Amy Vandersteel, that's incorrect. It's Ann Vandersteel, and you can watch an amazing interview that's just about 2 days old with Patrick Byrne, and he goes through some of this information, but a lot of what we've gone through in this episode he does not. So anyway, I'm going to attempt to put a summary on everything that we've learned from Mr. Byrne. Early 2000s, cooperates, as CEO of Overstock.com, cooperates with the FBI to out bad actors' malfeasance on Wall Street. About 2006, it looks like he was shown this letter of immunity, which is very, very rare, that gives him an almost 100% get-out-of-jail-free card in his efforts to assist the FBI, falling short of murder. Very rare to do that. We also find, okay, so then in 2008, we learn that some kind of law, rule, or something was passed that allows, under certain circumstances, the CIA to conduct business by using the FBI. That's very, very creepy, and that would have happened in the George W. Bush administration. So then we fast forward to 2015. These men in black that he had a previous relationship, the FBI agents, come to him. They want him to work with them to facilitate Hillary Clinton taking a bribe, which he agrees to do and which she does. And by the way, I just learned a matter of moments ago that Patrick Byrne says he has seen the confirmation, he's seen the actual wire transfer that had happened. Now, 3 weeks ago, he was saying, if I've got my references right, he was saying that he hadn't seen that proof. So if he has seen that proof, it would seem to indicate that he has seen it very, very recently, and maybe that's because he's working closely with the president, and he's funding out of his own pocket this team of white hat cyber guys that are uncovering, the same things that Dr. Shiva and all other people are uncovering. So 2015, Hillary Clinton takes the bribe. They don't want to do anything on it. They say, forget it. She's going to be elected president. We don't want her coming after us, so stay quiet about it. He says reluctantly, okay, but it doesn't sit good with him. He goes back to them a few weeks later and said, guys, this isn't sitting right. And they explained to him that Obama's got his people scattered out all over the DOJ and other parts of the administration, that she's going to be president, but Obama's going to be the sweatpants president and be able to control her with this dirt that he holds over her head. At that time, Patrick Byrne makes the decision that he's going to effect a sting operation on the powers that shouldn't be when he has the chance. He is given the chance in middle of 2016 when they come back to him and ask him to rekindle this relationship with this Russian nationalist, Maria Butina. He agrees. He allows them to believe that in the pursuit of that he has committed what would be aggravated rape by getting her intoxicated, becoming intimate. He lets them believe that, though it doesn't happen. And then he further leads them to believe that he would be willing to commit homicide if they asked him to. The agents are incensed. We'll kill you if you do that. And then we find out that he gets confirmation in 2020 that the ruse works and that it was signed off on at the very top from Clapper, from Brennan, from Comey. Didn't say Obama, but they signed off on it. And so that is as good as them giving the order for that to happen. So where are we at in this process? So, and then we also learned that in 2018, he was told that if he would keep his mouth shut, that they could make a billionaire out of him just like they've made a billionaire out of other people. What billionaires are walking around that the CIA created? I wonder if Zuckerberg is really that smart to become the billionaire that he. But I get off subject. So have I left anything out? I think that's it, folks. Folks, that's a lot. And just remember, the president knows all this. Now, the president also is surrounded by a lot of people that are giving him bad advice and telling him to cave. But he's also listening to good voices like Patrick Byrne, like Sidney Powell, like General Steele, like Rudy Giuliani. And so if you have made it thus far in the longest episode ever on Ohio for Freedom, I have a bonus for you. A bonus that's just brand new information also, to me at least. It's a couple days old. There's an employee at Microsoft that has come forward, and they have the photos, they have the specs and diagrams, they have the IP addresses that in one of the swing states, one of the swing states where the malfeasance took place, a wireless modem inside of a Minion machine, I'll say it like that, that was transmitting, and a receiver placed and hidden in the thermostat for the HVAC system in the voting room, counting room, whatever, chased the IT address back all the way to China. I tell you, I'm so far down the rabbit hole, I'm either making sense to somebody or I'm just sitting here in this little studio. just jabbering away. But this man, Patrick Byrne, is a patriot. Who do you know that's turned down a billionaire ship before? So, by the way, I haven't gained 50 pounds and I haven't been run over by a steamroller. There's some issues with the software, and I'm just going to go ahead and let it go to post looking like this. If you'd like to help us out with some improvements we're going to make at this little studio, I've already mentioned that. You can go to OhioFreedom.com and PayPal us. Folks, I hope this was helpful. Keep the faith. The president knows this. The president is not going to know all of this and cave and roll over. But we need to keep the faith. We need to show support in any manner that we can. So with that, I'm going to wish you a Merry Christmas. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. God bless the United States of America.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
There's a huge bombshell coming about a rape and murder. Did I walk you through that on your show?
No.
There's a rape and murder that's going to be revealed someday. There's a rape and murder that is going to be revealed someday. And I can tell you, John Brennan or James Comey signed off on it. After the fact, they didn't know it beforehand. But one of those two people signed off on a person who committed rape and murder so as to keep the guy on the street continuing to. So just so you know, and 3 federal agents were directed by John Brennan and James Comey. I don't know which one signed the piece of paper. They signed off on a rape and murder so that a guy could continue to do something they needed done.